Okay, what I think happened during the first part of this year is that I had I had my Gemara on my mouse pad, and having it on my mouse pad, it kept on pushing down whatever touchpad on the computer and pushing it down until finally it crashed. So I'm hoping that the first part got saved until it crashed. I can't tell you for sure if that's the case or not until it comes up on my YouTube channel, which it has not yet, but doesn't mean it's not going to come up. I mean, it does say Yerushalmi Megillah too, but it doesn't yet tell me what. Doesn't give me the option of editing it. So I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with that at this point. But perhaps they could come out. It does seem to have recorded till 9:27. So hopefully that will, in fact, prove to be the case. Yeah, it's supposed to have been for 20 minutes. So eventually, hopefully, it'll come back up. In any event, right now, we're going to continue on where I was told that the broadcast had stopped, which is on 2B, the base on the base, and it is here with to clear about Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan, it says he was not kosher Shim Bar Yochai, who held that Rabbi Yochanan was not kosher Shim Bar Yochai. Ron, can you hear me? I want to make sure this is working. Okay, so what I was thinking is that I just mentioned before you got on to the empty screen, but not really the empty screen, but basically to myself, is that I think what happened the first time is I had my Gemara on my touchpad, and eventually that just the video was going slowly. I didn't realize why, and from my perspective, but that must be the reason because now it's going fine, and eventually I guess it just caused everything to stop. So I think everything is recorded and will eventually come up on YouTube from the first part of this year, because it says it did record for about 20 minutes. So we're going to go on from where we got up to, which is the Rabbi Yochanan Karle B'Knishta the Kufra. Rabbi Yochanan read the Megillah in the base fences in Kufra, which is part of Tveria. This is the original Tveria, where where Tveria was the time of Yehoshua ben Nun, and the Lo Chashash Lo the Tani Rishim B'Yochai, and he was not kosher for that which Rishim B'Yochai said. In other words, in terms of that it's not Ir Mukefes Choma, because it has one wall, one barrier is the sea, the Kinneret. That was not a problem. He read on Tezvav. Now, it doesn't explain exactly why in the Gemara, but the Korban Eda does. Korban Eda says that the reason why his Mekel is because he held that that even though in terms of Ir Mukefes Choma, for the purpose of the Doraisa of not being able to redeem a house within the first year, you have to have a city which is Mukefes Choma, literally surrounded by a wall. That's the Gzeres HaKosov. At least one Rekurno Rishim B'Yochai, it's Gzeres HaKosov. But in terms of our Mikra Megillah aspect, the idea mukefes is not so much surrounded as protected. And therefore, it doesn't have to be surrounded by walls when it's protected on all four sides, like Rosh Hashanah was. So therefore, the fact, theoretically, perhaps, Rabbi Yochanan, even more than one side was water, that would also be okay. The point is that it is surrounded by some sort of defense. Okay, so therefore, he would read on Tezvav in Tveria, Kalu Shekilu B'Kriyasa. It's a leniency which we have in reading Megillah. The Tina Taman Koshli Fnimin Achoima. Because we learned over there that anything which is within the wall, Harei Kavate or Echoma, is like the cities. Is like in terms of Pater Echoma, is like anything which is within the walls is like the houses. Chutz min hasaros, except for the fields. Okay. Now, I want to give a slightly different version than the Korban Eidah from the Ridbaz. The Ridbaz is the parish in the Baal Gemara. Ridbaz is actually, as I mentioned, I think before, in the first year, contributed to the publication of the Vilna Yerushalmi, and he wrote parish, which I think was his right. Besides that, it's a very good parish. So he says in Dibur Maskil Chizkir Karle Bar Ba'asar, he says. In the fourth line down in the Perush of Ridbaz, Rabbi Yochanan Kar b'Tveria, he read in Tveria, V'lo chashash, l'hadad l'tan Rishim B'Echai, was not concerned with that which Rishim B'Echai said, Mishum Boi Kilu B'Kriyasa, because of the concept of they were leaning and reading the Megillah, the Inyan Kriya, in terms of reading the Megillah, Lo Ba'ina Mamash Kedushas Arei. You don't need to have the holiness about Arei Choma. In other words, the Daraisa Halacha has to do with the holiness factor. So holiness evidently is defined by having walls, not protection. But this is not the case in terms of Megillah. V'araya, the Nina and the evidence said there's some sort of factors to is what we just learned. Kol which is within the wall is like the wall. Alma is like the houses in the wall. Alma the chol dvarim the inin din b'batei choma. So we see that in terms of all the laws which require the status of houses within the wall, we specifically need it to be within the wall. Anything outside the wall, even one step, it's still dealing about It doesn't have a status about Choma. Even if it's adjacent and visible together with the base, with the walled city. In Chris Megillah, but in terms of reading the Megillah, Tanina, we learned V'chein Samuch because Samuch Lekrach, also things which are adjacent to the city. Vanirimo, and can be seen with the city. They Hareu Kayotzebo, they are like the city. Alma, we see the Kriya, Lokab Din in terms of reading. We're not concerned she love Dine Bateri Chama. Not concerned to have literally the base Knesset where we read it should have the status of a Bateri Chama. Because it's the Rabbanan. Because Rabbanan said whatever they wanted to say in terms of defining it. Rather, even the Rishim B'Echai said in terms of the Raisa halacha of Batei Choma. Prat the Tveria, Shayam Chamallah, that Tveria doesn't have that Kedusha. Nevertheless, coming in Chris Megillah, Yeshudin Mukav Choma, there's the Mikra Megillah, where clearly the parameters are different. Because we derive that from Samuch V'Nira. So therefore, according to Chamishos, or you read on the 15th. Okay, so let's go back and see that in the Gemara. Sorry. The Tnei time on Koshel Ifnim and Achoma, ain't which is in the wall, Reika Batei Chorma, Chutz Min Hasados, except for that means yards and gardens have the same status of houses. Except if you have a cultivated field within the walled city, it doesn't have status of the walled city in terms of the year of redemption. And Meir Avasados, and Meir says also the fields within the Orei Choima have that status. The Tanike, that's in terms of Batei Choma. But with us, the Tanike has some of the Krach Vanirimo Harei Kayotzibo. In our case, we say anything which is adjacent to the city or part of the city is like, or seen with the city is like the city, and therefore the parameters are clearly different. And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan said, it's very you can read on the 15th. Okay, I'm Rabbi Yochanan say Mikvis Vat Anti Paris. from Greece until Antiparas, which was a relatively small area. Shishim Riba Yorosai. There were 600,000 cities. Now, usually when we find something like this, it's not to be taken literally. What it means is that there were so many cities which were full of Kedusha and high level of people, like the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim where we had 600,000 people. The point is that they were in high level, high esteem, and this is before the Churban Beis Hamikdash. And the smallest of them was today's Beit Shemesh. Maxi Bon was say by Beit Shemesh. Vayachman Shei Beit Shemesh. He smote the people of Beit Shemesh, where there was a Kirobo and Hashem. There was a plague there because they didn't conduct themselves properly during the time when the Oren was there, when the time when it was being returned from the Plishtim, after they've been taken captive at the end of the days of the judgeship of Eli. So there was a plague there because they didn't conduct themselves properly with it. And these are only one side. Only one side of Eretz Yisrael. And it's Gedon, and now if you try to put in that same area 600,000 stalks of reeds, they're not going to contain that amount of reeds. So again, the idea is that Eretz Yisrael, when people live in it kalacha, the way they're supposed to, so it has this tremendous level of kedusha, and now it doesn't have anywhere near that level of kedusha. But I'd assume that there is a little bit of a mikra yotzim pshuto. I don't know if that's the right term to use in this case, but there's a little bit of truth that Eretz Yisrael, we know, when it's populated appropriately, it has this expansive quality, and that just like you find with Mitzrayim, kasher yanu also ken yirba v'chen yifrot. Just when the Jews are close together, getting along together, close to each other, getting along well. So then, even though they have relatively small room, a lot of them can be together at the same time. It's like the Beis Hamikdash, where they stood packed together, but when they bowed down, they all had room to bow down. On Rabbi China says, Kofta lo Eretz Yisrael. He follows along this line after the Churban Eretz Yisrael contracted. All the cities which Yeshua mentioned are not even 100, right? So obviously, there are very few cities when Eretz Yisrael was conquered. There were very few cities after Eretz Yisrael was destroyed. During the time when Am Yisrael was in Eretz Yisrael, there was this explosion of population. Mukafos Choma Mana. He said, no, there were more cities than that. Not number in Yeshua. He only counted the number of cities which were surrounded by walls. Right? Rabbi Yeshua says, no, there are more cities than that. He only counted the cities around the boundaries, to know the boundaries. And there's a passage which seems to indicate Rabbi Yeshua is connected. It says, Vahigvula Michelef, the Goymer, Katas v'Nalo v'Shomron v'Yarelo Beis Lechem, right? He's saying that the main point of the pasuk is that it says that it was on the gvul, it was a boundary, right? And therefore, all these things were cities on the boundaries, and then there were other cities within them. So now the Yerushalmi gets into the different names which were mentioned here. Mechlap is Chalaf, Mei Ayalon is Ayalon, Betzananim is Agnaya, the Kodesh, the Adme is Domain, Hanekib is Saidos, and Yam Els Tvayama, Ad Lakum is Lukim, Mekatas is Kidnis, Naalal is Malo, Vishamron, Simunaya, Virel Choraya, and Beis Lechem is Beis Lechem, Tzoraya. I guess it's a certain type of Lechem. Anyway, that is just kind of trying to identify the names in the pasuk and what they refer to. So it's late because we have that technical difficulty again tonight. Sooner or later I'll get the hang of this. We'll stop here for this evening and pick up here Mir Hashem next week for Rabbi Acha and Rabbi Yehuda ben Levi, Rabbi Yerushalmi Levi, 4 lines to the bottom of Beis Amud Beis. 5 lines to the bottom. Okay? Have a good night.